Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and very frequently I get people who contact me and complain to me about knee pains. They either have trouble early on starting out training because of knee pain, or they claim they can't do certain lifts like squats due to knee issues. And unless you have an actual injury that you sustained in sports or an accident or something of that nature, or you're quite elderly, you shouldn't be experiencing any sort of knee pain that will prevent you from training or from doing a deep squat particularly. And if anything, proper training and a properly done squat should help reverse minor types of knee damage and knee deterioration, and should actually help you over time. So I want to cover just very briefly, and this is going to catch some heat. Some people are going to disagree, and I really don't care, guys. But let's cover a few things that are going to contribute to knee problems. One of the first problems I see up front is excessive use of knee wraps, excessive use of knee sleeves. Now, people used to think, and they really did think this, and they had no reason to think otherwise for years, that these things prevented injuries, that they helped keep the knees warmer, raise hydrostatic pressure. But in more recent years, it's turned out that studies are showing that chronic use of knee wraps when you squat or when doing other leg movements can actually cause certain types of knee damage over time that wouldn't be there had you just squatted without them. Now, I don't know if we have such data on knee sleeves, but it is very possible that knee sleeves can produce the same effect because of the way they press against the kneecap. Subject to speculation, but by that same token, I don't really see the benefit to either one for injury prevention. These are support tools to help you lift more weight, and I don't recommend doing them if you don't compete with them. And particularly if you don't compete at all, it's silly. There's no benefit. It's not going to help you get bigger or stronger. So that's number one on the list. If you have knee problems or you're worried about knee problems, you need to lose the wraps. Now, number two is oftentimes muscle imbalances, and it's in large part because many of us have sedentary jobs. We sit at a desk at school as children growing up. Sometimes we can have issues with our hamstrings being a little tight, a little underdeveloped sometimes, and so oftentimes we need a little bit more hamstring work. And I don't want people to think that that means I'm telling you to do hamstring curls, because I'm not. I'm telling you that you need to make sure that you're incorporating a number of hamstring dominant movements, such as deadlifts, Romanian deadlifts, or glute ham raises, good mornings, whatever, but deadlifts need to be high on your list. You need to be doing big, heavy compounds that do use hamstrings very heavily and recruit them and develop them to help balance that out. And accordingly, we know that leg extensions have the potential to put more torque on the knee than you need, and they don't really offer you any real benefits. People will argue with me on that, but you can get full quad activation by doing a squat. And there's no reason for the majority of people to need leg extensions. Just like with anything else, there are exceptions to every rule, and there are athletes out there who may benefit from them, but they're the exception to the rule. They're not the norm. And accordingly, you're putting stress on the knee that doesn't need to be there, that isn't put there by any other lift. And you may not need any more quad development. If anything, you might need to be more hamstring dominant to help with the stresses on your knee that could be causing you to have knee pain over time. So again, if this is an issue for you, you need to eliminate these leg extensions. And that just covers the things that people are doing wrong there. Now with the squat itself, like with any other lift, if done correctly and on a proper program, the squat itself can strengthen the knee over time. It shouldn't be causing you knee pain. But people oftentimes don't go on well thought out programs. People do not have well-written programs that help their body adapt over time, that give their joints and connective tissue proper breaks, proper loading, and proper breaks in time to adapt, recover, rebuild correctly. And I don't mean you need to have intermittent training. I'm not saying you can't squat every day and still achieve this. What I'm saying is that number one on the list, are people taking deloads appropriately? Are they working with different load parameters that change the amount of load on the knees? Are you periodizing your training correctly, or are you training with the same loads and intensity levels week after week after week after week? There's something to be said for linear periodization and helping build stronger joints and connective tissue while giving them periods of time with less stress. And the same can be said of using different methods. Are you belting up tight and doing rate of perceived exertion 9+ on a 1 to 10 scale all the time, or are you utilizing other methods like beltless squats so that you reduce the total load you're using, but still helping with overload and development and shifting the focus of the squat a little bit? Are you taking periods of time to where you're doing pause squats, which again, a pause squat, you're going to use less weight for the same amount of reps. You're going to put less total stress on these areas. It can not only help build strength in a certain way, but these sort of techniques can help some of the connective tissue recover because you're still stimulating large amounts of growth, but you're doing so in a way that gives you less mechanical advantage sometimes, and you're putting less total weight and workload on the joints and connective tissue for periods of time. This sort of thing can allow for better healing and adaptation. That's the reason we utilize these rotating training methods. It's one of the reasons we utilize periodization and deloads, so that you can use different methods to push different tissues in the body, not just muscle tissue, but joints, connective tissue, bones, things like that, to a threshold that forces them to adapt and then back off a little bit. So these are all things that you need to be considering if you're concerned with knee pain, because squats in and of themselves shouldn't be causing you knee pain, even if your form isn't that great. They should be building up your knees, making them stronger and healthier. All right, guys, so that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it has been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time. But let me give you guys a bicep shot before I go.